Two's Travis Khachaturian breaks down the surveillance footage in part 2 of his 3-part series, State of Prisons. Travis.
Maria Caslin, both prison officials and correctional officers tell me working behind the bars can be a dangerous job. DOC employees are tasked with keeping safe a unique population of Alaskans. And if something goes wrong, it could be the difference between life and death. Now, we want to warn you, some viewers may find video in this story disturbing. March 20th, 2014. With a history of bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, Davon Mosley was put in solitary confinement. He was pepper sprayed, he refused to wear clothes, he stopped showering. His mental condition slowly deteriorated, living in solitude for more than 2 weeks, until he died from multiple ulcers and internal bleeding.
Mr. Mosley should not have been in that jail cell. You know, he needed medical assistance.
Davon Mosley's death is an indictment of the Alaska Department of Corrections. Not only was he supposed to be set free a week before his death, his mental condition was neglected.
The Davon Mosley case is one that there was just a breakdown on several levels.
Alaska's prisons are filled with people like Mosley. According to the Department of Corrections, about 65% of Alaska's inmates have a mental illness. As much as 80% are dealing with alcohol and drug abuse issues.
But the reality is we deal with a very sick population. And so I think to prepare anyone who is not medical personnel to care for some of these folks, it's exceptionally difficult.
DOC medical staff say sometimes they're overwhelmed. Recruitment isn't easy, the pay isn't competitive, and the patients aren't always friendly.
This is the beginning of the medical area. We have a trauma room, we have some interview rooms, and then some exam rooms.
The medical team reports to one supervisor, the correctional officers report to another, and sometimes the miscommunication between medical and security lead to deadly consequences, according to the findings of a recent investigation. January 27, 2015, Larry Kobuk is admitted to the Anchorage jail, telling a nurse he has a heart condition. He's combative and verbally threatens officers' lives. Kobuk refuses to take off his jacket as he's admitted into jail, so 3 officers take him to the ground. As he's restrained, he says he can't breathe, and those are a few of his last words.
Me and every member of the staff at the complex, any death, irregardless to how it occurred, has an effect on us emotionally because we're here to protect these individuals.
While the video of Kobuk's death in custody may be difficult to watch, no law was broken. The Department of Law says officers were following protocol.
The officers were following their policy, their training, and the national standards. They did not act inappropriately. No officer caused the death of any of the inmates in the videos released.
But that's why correctional officer policies and practices are being called into question. An investigation into the DOC system initiated by the governor's office shows of the 23 restricted access policies, 18 have not been updated since 2002. 6 of these were last updated in the 1980s.
These policies need to be relooked at, they need to be addressed, and we need to make sure that what we're doing fits certainly with all the national standards and is the most appropriate for the safety of officers and the inmates.
The new DOC commissioner says the blame can't be pointed to a single person, but systemic failures that are leading to deaths behind bars, like that of Gilbert Joseph, who was admitted to the Fairbanks Correctional Center so intoxicated on hand sanitizer, he was unable to walk or stand as his cellmates assaulted him multiple times before his death.
My concern and my commitment is that whoever dies in prison, we've done everything we can to either try to prevent that or doing the best we can in response.
Commissioner Williams is promising full transparency and reform heading into the future, but billions of dollars of pending state budget cuts threatens to add another aggravating factor to the prison system's shortcomings. And with the state averaging around 5,000 inmates behind bars, the Department of Corrections essentially doubles as the largest mental health provider in Alaska.
And of course, web journalist Paula Dobbin has more details on the story published on our website, KTUU.com. And if you want to look back at what you just watched, the complete story will be posted after the news hour tonight. And Travis, that video, we've seen those before. They are so difficult to watch. Has anything changed because of those videos and because they are so tough to watch?
Well, the new commissioner, he's only a few weeks on the job, but He's promising reforms. He says already that he's trying to combine the medical team and the Officers Association under the same superintendent to make sure they're working together, as well as really reduce the use of solitary confinement, as you saw in the Mosley case. Yeah, Maria Caslin, there are many stressors piling up on the state's Department of Corrections. Prisons are reaching their max capacity. Prison guards are being overworked just to keep up with mandated levels of security. All the while, the burden of those behind bars have state lawmakers looking for solutions. Alaska's crowded prisons are facing shrinking budgets.
DOC has in effect declared a state of emergency for the last year.
With nearly 5,000 in custody, the prison population hovers near historic highs, mounting added stress on correctional officers.
There are clearly significant staffing issues.
According to an independent study released last week, the prison system needs to hire an additional 102 staff to meet professional correctional standards and practices. The analysis indicates that a number of facilities are currently operating with staffing levels insufficient to meet basic security operational requirements.
The new commissioner came out and said that his top 3 priorities are safety, safety, safety. The easiest way to address that is staffing, staffing, staffing.
The Alaska Correctional Officers Association says it's not uncommon for officers to be forced to work multiple 16-hour shifts a week just to meet required shift minimums. As a result, the union spokesperson says the long days are creating a dangerous work environment.
We're playing Russian roulette with officers' lives, and that's not acceptable.
But hiring more people is going to take more money. Money that seems unlikely in a state fiscal environment calling for more cuts. Most every major sector of government is being asked to operate on less for the coming year, and the governor has already proposed a $5 million reduction to the Alaska Department of Corrections budget. The governor's proposal would bring the budget down to $319 million, but still, the current price of prison is costing the state 50% more compared to 10 years ago.
We do the best we can, but we are thin and it is tough.
One proposed solution, reducing the prison population.
Okay, this will lead us into the booking area.
According to the Alaska Criminal Justice Commission, prison reform may be one of the few necessary tools left to not only reduce the exploding prison population's burden on the state budget, but also prevent the need to build a new multi-million-dollar prison complex to keep up with arrests.
For every person who's in there who doesn't need to be in there, it's a complete stressor on the rest of the entire system.
Senate Bill 91 was introduced into the state legislature this month and is still up for debate among lawmakers. Included in the bill are requirements to combat inmate growth by reserving prisons for dangerous criminals rather than locking up hundreds of drug addicts and nonviolent offenders. Experts on the Criminal Justice Commission believe the prison population could grow to 6,500 over the next decade, but reform could ultimately lead to a 15 to 25% reduction of inmates, saving the state an estimated $424 million.
Senate Bill 91 is hugely important for me in terms of leading the department.
The commissioner is showing optimism in the bill, but if passed, would only be a piece of the complex prison puzzle, juggling the safety of officers and inmates, as well as working to reduce recidivism and keep the streets safe, all on a shrinking budget. Commissioner Williams says he's not sure exactly how he's going to do it, but welcomes the challenge, because as the governor said, the system stands broken today. Senate Bill 91 still has many more hurdles to overcome before becoming law and possibly overhauling the way the state views criminal justice. Although prison reform has its supporters and its opponents, both correctional officers, victim rights advocates, and many legislators agree the system isn't sustainable into the future as it stands today.
All right, thanks.